with Bobby from Mute 6, Dan from Audacity, and Olivia from Just Uno. So Bobby, you want to give a quick intro to yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having us, Michael. Bobby Baker here. I am with Mute 6 and really in charge of scaling brands on paid social, really leveraging a lot of Facebook, Instagram ads to really just help brands grow.
Awesome. Thanks, Bobby. Dan.
Hey, everybody. I'm Dan from Audacity. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Audacity. Been in e-commerce for a long time and love everything data and analytics. So hit me up anytime you have data or analytics questions.
Thank you, Dan the man. Heck yeah. Appreciate that. And Olivia.
Hi, I'm Olivia from Just Uno. I manage the customer success and strategy department. So doing a lot of the on-site strategy and, maximizing that ROAS on site. So that's kind of what we're doing day to day and working with that strategy.
Awesome. Thanks, Olivia. Cool. Then without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and launch this off, but with a few quick logistics for this. So for the presentation, each presenter will go. If you have any questions at all, throw them in the chat or use the Q&A function, and we'll make sure those are given to the panelists. And if we have any time left at the end, we'll spend some time with another quick Q&A session. So yeah, feel free to throw your questions in the chat anytime. And again, the recording of this webinar will be sent out tomorrow to all registrants. So if you have to hop early or you've a friend or colleague that can't make it live, that recording will be there, sent out, and all that good stuff, along with all the awesome partner offers that Mute 6 and Dawson and Just Uno have to offer. So without further ado, Bobby, why don't you take us away?
Awesome. Thanks, Michael. Let me go ahead and share my screen. There we go. Can you guys all see my screen?
Yep.
Cool. All right, jumping on in. So paid media in the holidays, really what we're going to be talking about is how do we scale our brands throughout Q4, right? There's tons and tons of opportunities where consumers are going to be prime for buying. And so really, we're going to talk about a ton of different strategies. Again, my name is Bobby, and I'm the paid social campaign manager at Mute 6. So let's go ahead and jump on in. So e-commerce this year is going to be really bigger than ever. And so the beautiful thing is, as things start to open back up, there's going to be a lot more in-person gifting. So we're seeing about 2 in 3 consumers, 64% really expect upcoming season to be more meaningful than last year and years prior. And then about 56% more likely to be emotionally invested in 2021 holidays. So we're going to see a lot more buying, a lot more people that are looking to really just make the most out of this season's holidays. And then self-gifting is really going to be big. 54% bought gifts for themselves. So you can really expect people to actually buy for themselves. And those are things that we want to harness in our marketing, in our messaging. We'll show a few examples here in a sec. But then there's about 53% that bought gifts for others. So really, just as much as people are going to be buying for others, they're also going to be buying for themselves. So we really want to make sure that we communicate effectively so that we can really communicate with those people that are likely to buy for themselves as well. So what's new this year compared to other years? So 81% of consumers did more than half of their 2020 holiday shopping online. So this is huge because back in the day, people would do a lot more buying on retail. They would go, to the mall, they would go to the stores, they would go to all these different shopping centers that were in person because that was the way, right? And now with COVID pretty much expediting the entire online digital community, people are learning how to leverage online shopping, how to buy online shopping. A lot of people that in the past didn't have to buy online because they could buy in stores, they didn't really have to adapt. And so this last year, that's really what the entire year was about, adapting to sort of this digital ecosystem. So about 75% purchased at least half of their 2020 holiday purchases online, and then 16% of them bought through an e-commerce retailer for their holiday gifts. So this is really a good slide. And if you're using a ton of different channels, if you're on Facebook, Google, Amazon, email, programmatic, I'd suggest screenshotting this page right here because this is actually going to give you some primary checklists just to make sure that you are doing everything that you can to make sure that your accounts are prepared for the season. So I'm not going to run through all of these, but just to give you a gist of what this checklist is about, talks about increasing the spend limits on your account so that, you know, you're having a great Q4 and then all of a sudden your account gets, you know, gets stopped or paused because you don't have your spend limits up to, you know, whatever it is that you think you could potentially hit. And then really just making sure that your credit cards, your bank accounts are good to go, and then your new ad accounts are ramped up, ready to go prior. So really just making sure that everything's warm, you cross your T's, dotted your I's, and making sure that you're really ready to go for an amazing Q4. So really when we think of Q4, we think of Black Friday, we think about discounts, right? And that's what consumers are thinking about as well. So it's super, super important for us to make very clear and simple offers. There's tons of different offers and discounts that you can have. You can have those ethical discounts where you're talking about donations to charities with your orders, talking about bundles, bundling up things and making it discounted, buy one, get ones, time discounts, gift with purchase, or even tiered discount. And so my suggestion is always to make these discounts as simple as possible. Okay, we tested a number of different discounting strategies, and the ones that do the best are the ones that are very simple, very straightforward. If it's something along the lines of, hey, you have to buy, you know, 3 things to get this one thing, or you have to spend $50 to get 25% off, those tend to be a little bit more consuming and they're not as straightforward. And so consumers are very, very hip to that. And so they really, really prefer the very simple ones that are going to pretty much be straightforward and be beneficial to them. And the other big thing I want to point out here is making offers early. A lot of people want to wait until the week of Black Friday to start making offers. And guess what? You're competing with everybody else in the ecosystem for those dollars, right? There's a limit on the number of dollars that are going to be accessible during any given time. And while you know everyone's going to be pushing juicy offers and going to be pushing sales, you know, there's no reason to compete only during that time frame. So if you're a smart brand, smart business, you're going to launch those offers early so that you can tap into some of those dollars prior to some of your competitors or to really the rest of the market. So now we're going to talk about some creative strategies. So this is usually a little bit more of the fun part. So when we're talking about how we use our messaging, how we use our creative, we want to create content and copy that really communicates to what's going on in the world, right? So we love to leverage copy that's going to speak to whatever's happening, whether it's spring, winter, fall, summer, doesn't matter. We should be communicating accordingly. And of course, there's holidays and there's Black Friday again, there's Christmas. And so while we want to communicate around those themes, we want to also have content that actually speak to those themes as well. So here's an example of one of our clients. And really this is a push for a gift giving sort of offer. And so we're not doing anything super special in terms of sales, but we are communicating around the gift, right? The ultimate travel gift, and really talking about how this can be for yourself, how this can be for someone's anniversary, or just a birthday or something new. And so that's going to be really important in our copy. And again, in our visuals, because the first thing they're going to see are going to be the visuals. Once they see the image, they see the video, then a consumer goes and starts to read text, starts to read copy. So one of my favorite campaigns is the gifting campaigns. These are, again, we're talking holidays, but these can be evergreen campaigns where you're consistently talking about how to leverage gifts for yourselves or for really any special occasion. So this right here is our thumb stops, right? So we're going to talk about really the bread and butter of what we do, right? When you talk about performance marketing and you're talking about performance creative, really you have to know which areas of the creative are really going to be the most important, right? You're going to typically have the first 3 seconds, which are the thumb stops, and then usually the final couple seconds, which is the CTA. So the first thing that we love to test every time, whenever we crank out one of these new creatives, is the thumb stops. So we want to test what are the first 3 seconds. And really the formula for measuring thumb stops is 3-second video views divided by impressions. So really out of, you know, however many people scroll past our ad, how many of those people stopped and actually watched the first 3 seconds or more? And so that's going to be a really important metric for us to understand. Again, that is, you know, dividing impressions and dividing the 3-second video views. And so this will give us a percentage, 20%, 30%. If you have 40% of the people who see who we serve our ads to, if 40% of those people actually stop on that ad, you have a pretty solid thumb stop. If it's lower, 10%, 15, 20%, then we may need to make adjustments to those first 3 seconds. And I'll show you guys an example here in a second. But some of the things that work really well for thumb stops, expressive faces, right? So a lot of times people making faces like, oh my God, or wow, or I can't believe this. Like, these faces tend to garner a lot of attention. They get people stopped, looking, and it really hooks them in to pay attention. Pets or kids, we all know people love pets. We all know people love little kids. And so leveraging those within the first 3 seconds always does really well if it fits your product. And then bizarre or shocking, right? You see this guy burning money and you're like, whoa, why is this guy burning money? And so again, that's going to capture a lot of attention. Interesting demos. People love to watch like stuff that might be like somewhat weird initially until you start to realize like, oh, this is a very, very great toothbrush. And so it gives you like a little example of how it works and how well it could do for you. And then sort of that satisfying sort of creative that makes you feel good after. I know a lot of people are into those videos that where there's like people cutting like these random sort of things. And it's very soothing a lot of times. And so we can use those types of things in our videos as well.
Hey, Bobby, a quick question from the chat came in actually. Catherine says, or asks, Facebook needs a lot of creative and a lot of time. So how can she grow their creative resources to keep up?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So one of the easiest and our favorite ways are influencers, right? If you can leverage other people's time, a lot of times you can offer something valuable. Maybe you're offering them your product. If you sell shoes, you go to these influencers. And again, when we talk about influencers, we're not talking about people with 1 million followers. We're really talking about content creators. We're talking about the people that have already displayed value in their content. You look at their social media pages and you see all of these cool videos that they created. Those are content creators. So we want to go and create a list of those people and start to reach out to them. Say, hey, we'll give you in exchange for, a couple of videos, a couple images, we'll give you, some free product plus, X percentage off for all of your followers. And so a lot of times that's a great deal for some of these influencers because they love free stuff. And so you can offer them those types of things. If you want to do paid relationships, you can do that as well. But this basically allows you to capture a ton of content from individuals that already create great content. And so that's one of the easiest ways you could put out, an SOS for all of those individuals, and they'll very much so bring back, quality content depending on how descriptive you were in the initial briefing. So that's one of our favorite ways, one of the easy ways, especially if you're bootstrapping, you don't have the money to create these highly produced. Keep in mind, none of these videos here are highly produced. Like these weren't $1,000 films. Like these are people with their iPhones that are shooting very simple selfie style videos. And so these are typically what works best on social because this is what's native to the platform.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Bobby.
Cool, good question. So here, last slide, we talked about thumb stops and how we like to really optimize our creative. So here's kind of an example of what the optimization of video creative will look like, right? We maybe start with one video, and in this video, it talks about clean boots within 30 seconds. So that's the hook for this particular creative. And then it goes and it explains that and so on and so forth. We test that. And after we test that, we get a feel for what are the thumb stops of this video? What are the CTRs of this video? How many people actually watch this video 100%, 95% through? How much does that cost us to get a full video view? And then we'll go and we'll split those videos and we'll say, okay, let's test one where in this one, let's start with a human being that first 3 seconds. So we see that there's a person here. And then in this example, let's do the same thing, but let's try a guy. So in this case, we're testing a female, we're testing a male, and we're really just trying to see who is going to get a better resonate. Like, are we going to get more resonation with the guy, with the girl? Even though these creatives are very, very similar, that first hook is what we want to see. What captures more attention? So after we've done that, we've tested this iteration, we know a little bit more on the data. We're talking about thumb stop rates. For example, this one may have a 10% thumb stop rate. This one may have a 30% thumb stop rate. And then we're like, okay, once we go into round 3, now we're able to sort of piece up the different parts of the video. We may take this hook from this video, take this CTA from another video, and we're able to sort of what we call Frankenstein the video and optimize it to make sure that it's really leveraging those past winners. And so here are 2 examples that we ended up with. So these are, just examples of different hooks and how the evolution of creative really breaks down from, starting with one video to actually remaking, editing, making changes to those videos to see what's going to give us really the best bang for our buck. And one thing also to note on this that I actually like, one of the simple ways is we're talking about hooks. And one of the easiest way to leverage your existing video is to sometimes just clip the first 3 seconds, right? If you don't have the time or the resources to make edits to a ton of videos, you can very much so do something where your first 3 seconds are here. And you're like, whoa, this first 3 seconds weren't that great. The thumb stop rate wasn't all that exciting. Well, you don't have to go and create an entire new video. You can literally select the editor on the platform and actually trim this video so that it actually starts here at second 3. So instead of the first 3 seconds starting here, the first 3 seconds start here, where we can go and test that. And so something that's very simple that you can do, literally in just a couple minutes. Okay, so now we're gonna shift over into the iOS landscape, okay? And I know anyone who's familiar with this is like the Grim Reaper for tracking and accuracy on tracking. So not a fun conversation, but a conversation that is reality and one that we have to adapt to nonetheless. So looking at iOS and tracking, so the challenge is there's an average of about 40% total signal loss, right? For some accounts, it's less, for some accounts, it's more. But on average, we're seeing about a 40% total signal loss. And what that means is normally we're in the ad account and we're running our campaigns and our ad account says yesterday that we had 20 conversions. What we're seeing in Shopify is going to be more like 30 conversions or 35 conversions or 25 conversions, again, depending on the signal loss for your brand and for your account. And so what that does is it makes it a little bit harder as marketers for us to analyze that data and understand, okay, do we turn this ad on or this ad off, or how is this thing doing versus that campaign? And so that's obviously very frustrating for us. And what we have to do is really, again, adapt to that. So 92% of users have opted out of app tracking. So we found about 92% of the users that are using iOS, that are using Apple phones, that are using Macs, are using iPads and some of these other devices. Those people, about 92% of them really were like, you know what, we don't want tracking, right? Facebook actually Apple rolled out this actual commercial where they were actually like encouraging people to opt out. And while they've opted out of trackability, a lot of that trackability, you're still gonna see ads. They're just not gonna be as relevant. So who that benefits, who knows? But at the end of the day, this is where we have to be less granular and more reliable on performance metrics, okay? Worldwide decline in trackable ROAS and CPA. And so the solution to these things, we wanna really leverage holistic, okay? We wanna be able to look at the big picture and understand how much money is going in, how much money is coming out. How much money did we put into our Facebook? Did we put into our Snapchat? Did we put into our Google? And how many dollars came out of that within our, our macro, whether we're using Shopify or we're using a developed site. We want to look at dollars in, dollars out, and understand what is that total ratio. We used to be able to look at ROAS within the ad account. Now we have to look at ROAS within the Shopify to spend, total spend. So that's one of the ways. Another way that we're looking at this is we're looking at link clicks versus landing page views. So again, this helps us understand how many people clicked on the link and how many people actually fired as a landing page view within our pixel. So this helps us understand a little bit how well our pixel is actually performing and gives us an idea of, okay, we had 20 link clicks, but we had 10 landing page views. So that's on average about a 50% deficiency. So that helps us understand, again, what that signal loss is like. Pixel conversions, Shopify orders, again, looking in our pixel, looking in our events manager and saying, okay, in our events manager, we had 50 total conversions, right? And in the Pixel Events Manager, that should also include all of the conversions that are coming from, Google, that are coming from Facebook, that are coming from Snapchat, and all these different places. Those will all hit the Pixel theoretically. Now with iOS, again, there's going to be some deficiencies there, but it helps us understand how many of those Pixel conversions versus Shopify orders are different. And what, again, helps us get a little bit more of a feel for what that signal loss is like. And then lastly, as we make optimizations and we try to monitor how well a performance creative is doing, we want to leverage in-platform metrics, right? So we're going back to a world where CPCs are extremely important. Things that are happening on the platform, the link clicks, things that are happening, the shares, the views, the comments and likes, really, as we all know, those don't equate to dollars. But at the end of the day, we want to look at what's happening on platform, the things that won't be impacted by the pixel. Again, shares is one of my favorite ways to really monitor virality. If you know how much a cost per share is on any given creative, you know how well that particular creative is at creating some virality.
Hey, Bobby, quick question here. Of those measurement strategies, which one do you think is the have the most notable impact or is the most important in your eyes?
Honestly, I think there's not one. Well, actually, yes, there's one. If you could only look at one, it would be that holistic, leveraging dollars in, dollars out, right? We know that we had, it goes back to the old school return on investment, right? How much did we spend on marketing and how much money did we make at the end of the day? We spent $100,000. We had 400,000 in our total revenue. Of course, this is going to include organic. This is going to include word of mouth. This is going to include email, right? But at the end of the day, we have to be able to sort of graph that line and get a feel for how things move when we start to increase budget or when we start to decrease budget in our advertising. So that would be the one, I think, macro holistic point of view. But again, you want to really leverage as many different data points as possible to get a feel for, what is the total sort of signal loss. Again, if we know that we have a 40% signal loss for our account, then we may want to make projections on what our ad account will look like within the Shopify. So we know, okay, this says a 3.5 return on ad spend. It's maybe a little bit more like a 40% increase, right? So again, being able to make those projections based on what we found from some of these other strategies. Cool. So if you guys have any questions, definitely feel free to reach out to us. We offer a free Omnichannel audit. So if you're curious, hey, will this work for my brand? Is Mute6 going to be a great partner for us? Our team is very good at really analyzing your business, breaking down some of the different areas that we feel like we can improve upon, and being honest and up forward, like, hey, we can help you guys or we can't. So don't hesitate to reach out if you guys have any more questions. Feel free to drop them in the chat or just let us know.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bobby. Really appreciate that whole presentation. A lot of awesome information. And I love the emphasis on data, especially. But I know who's going to love data even more, and that's Dan from Dacity, who's up next. Yeah, I just threw Bobby's offer in the chat, so please email them, get that free Omnichannel audit for your brand. They're an awesome agency, so please reach out. So without further ado, Dan, why don't you take it away and give us some insight? Oh, hey, Dan, you are muted.
Right. Sorry about that. Thanks, everybody. Great to be here. Thank you, Michael. Super excited to chat about data and how you can use data to really leverage your holiday strategies. So let's, I'll kind of skip the about us. We work with a lot of brands, really helping them power a lot of their data insights by taking data from a whole variety of sources and put them together. But we're going to go a little bit more into that. First, let's talk about holiday. It's going to be massive. We're expecting to see over $1 trillion of spend for the first time ever, and at least 20% of that being in e-commerce. So huge holiday season expected, coming up with the expectation and spend. So super exciting. But as Bobby said, this is what we're all freaked out about. I just have to tell you though, it's not real. It's the vendor, right? This is the one thing that you have to remember is if any of you tracked your spend around that time period when iOS 14.5 rolled out, you probably didn't notice that your dollars in and dollars out, as Bobby loved to put it, have a huge change, except Facebook tell you you now looked terrible. So the reality is you just have to remember that vendor reported ROAS is what plummeted, not your actual ROAS. And yes, I know we are all reliant on going into Facebook and listening to Facebook to listen to them to say what we're doing, how we're performing. So you've got to stop that, right? You've got to stop that change and sort of use other channels or other ways of looking at it. Still really important to look at your vendor ROAS, but you've got to use different methods in order to go and look and pull that data. So there's things that you can there's other things you can do, and I'll kind of share three metrics that you should be sort of thinking about. So the first one is ROAS, right? Simple return on ad spend over revenue. You go get that from your vendors. You generally go look at it. Actually, personally, I hate ROAS because it's really hard to figure out. It's easy as a number, but I don't know what multiple I want. And I'll explain this on the next slide. I really like CPA and CPO, and there's a slight difference. One, CPA is the cost to acquire a customer. So it's the marketing spend divided by the number of customers that made their first purchase. That's the first, so new customer acquired. Your CPO is your marketing spend over your total orders. Pick either one, doesn't matter, but just track one of those. Do it on an overall basis or do it on a last click basis or try and use your vendor, but compare them all. And that's going to help you really understand those benchmarks. So here's why I like CPO. So what you need to do in preparation for holidays is start to think about you're going to offer discounts. I know you will. So let's go figure out what our discount rate should be. And this is why I love CPO and CPA. Because if you're a 50% gross margin business, in other words, your product cost is half of what you sell it for. I think that means your ROAS, you need to break even, right, is a 2. Now, what if you're a 40% gross margin business? I don't know, that math is it's even hard for me. And I love math and I love data and I can't even figure that out in my head. That's why I love CPO or CPA, because it's easy. I sell it for $100. It costs me 50. So I know what my gross margin is. And now I can go figure out if I have a CPA, what my profit is. So this is full product price profit. Well, when we start to offer a discount, a couple of things that we know. Conversion rate's going to go up. So your CPA is going to go down, right? Your cost to acquire that customer is going to go down. But by offering a 10% discount, we've now dropped our profit from 20 to 11. If we now go to 15%, we've dropped it to 8. If we go to 20%, we've dropped it to 5. So the bigger discount where you're trying to drive more sales, it's actually reducing your profitability. We can go have a discussion around what your profitability should be. There's different people. Some people say you can go all the way to 0 if you have a good LTV and you want to acquire customers. Other people are going to tell you, maybe your accountant is going to tell you, no, you shouldn't go down to 0. But there's an easy way that we can think about how do we go and have a discount and maintain some really good profitability. And that's the planning that we need to do now to be ready for that holiday season. So how do I go do that? First, you need to understand the regular margin on your product and the volume of that product you sell, because there's conceptually, you can create a 4x4, basically 4 quadrants. You have high volume, high gross margin. You have high volume, low gross margin, and then low volume, low gross margin, and low gross margin. If you have products like this that are high gross margin and high volume, that's like your main product, right? So what do you want to do? You want to go find products that have, for things that have a high gross margin like this, you want to go find products that have a low volume, but couple a lot with this product to try and create bundles. If you have a low gross margin product, but also has high volume, you want to bundle that with also something that is up here that has a low volume, but high gross margin. So how do I go figure out what bundles to create? You have to understand your product affinity in the same cart. Or maybe across the first to second purchase. What product do people tend to group together? So if I'm selling this product here, maybe this is a high volume product. These would be some great bundles down here to create. And so what does that actually do from a math perspective? Because I love math. So let's go figure that out from a math perspective, right? So now I've raised my MSRP to 150, and with that gross margin 75, but that cost per order or cost per acquisition, whichever you want to do, is the same. Now, look, we're going to take a worst case scenario and say that our conversion rate didn't improve as we're offering discounts, because they will. And look, I've increased my profitability on that order, because even though I'm reducing that product, I've basically raised my AOV. By raising that AOV, by pushing those bundles and finding those high gross margin products that don't have as much volume, I've now created more profitability for me, for my business, which is great during the holiday period, because that's the best time to incent people. So that's how you use data, improve your gross margin, improve your customer acquisition. Great strategy for you to do now, because got to make sure you got product, make sure that those bundles are out there before you get into the holiday season. So a couple of other things that you should be doing as you're thinking about this and you're thinking about these strategies. New versus returning by channel. You want to understand the distribution of customers that are new versus returning in your channel of acquisition. And why is that really important? Because of the dollars that you're spending for acquisition, for retention. So don't forget, holidays just as much as about retention as it is acquisition. And so if I'm doing things like having any returning customers coming through Facebook, like, look, you're going to get some. You are absolutely, but you don't want it to be, you don't want your new customers to be 30%. You want your new customers to be 100%. So this graph, terrible graph, right? 100% of customers coming back through Facebook being existing. I've already spent lots of money to acquire those customers. So you want to really amp up a lot of your retention strategies as well. So make sure that you're thinking about, what are you doing in email? What are you doing in SMS? What are you doing in these channels that are traditionally more retention focused, and most importantly, cheaper, to try and drive that revenue, because that's going to take this CPO and make that, if we were to use a cost per order, make that a lot cheaper than what our acquisition channels are going to be. So really, really important for you to understand as you're going through the holiday. Yes, you're going to be thinking a lot about acquisition, but make sure you don't forget those retention metrics. And another key insight, if you've got that holiday buyer, change that retention messaging, right? You don't want it. They bought the gift. What's the additional gift that you can get them to buy, instead of trying to continue hammering them to buy that initial gift? I used to work for Pro Flowers, so I apologize for spamming all of you with lots of email. That was my responsibility. And that was one of the things that we did in holidays, is as soon as you had purchased, we put you into a different bucket, because we wanted to change the messaging. You'd already bought that main holiday gift, so how do we get you to buy for somebody else, or maybe a different product? And then last thing, LTV by channel. So how do you decide, right? So how do you decide what that threshold is going to be? You want to understand your lifetime value by channel, because that's going to help you set that target. I talked early on about, well, should you allow yourself to get to zero profitability? It's all going to depend upon this LTV. So if I'm sort of up in one of these curves up here, I'm a happy camper, I can spend a lot. If I'm down here where it's not, where it's kind of flat, maybe I can't invest it in much and I need that first order to be profitable. So really, really important to understand that lifetime value by channel to help you make the decisions, because you should have different spend thresholds on a per order basis, whether you're in Facebook, Instagram, Google, wherever it is. If you have any questions, reach out to us, sales@dassy.com. We've got a 15-day, you get a 15-day free trial if you install our app in Shopify, and our team will walk you through the platform and help you get insight into all of these cool data metrics that are going to help you leverage your business and have a great holiday.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dan. That was fantastic. Yeah. Love the emphasis on data. We share that same love here, just, data. The more you know, the better your business will do, especially with the holidays. So thank you so much for that. And yeah, please, for those in the audience, take advantage of that special offer for the free profit maximizing analysis and a 15-day trial. Just email sales@dassy.com and they will get you set up and ready to go. So next up, we have Olivia from Just Uno, who will be talking about Onsite Strategy. So Olivia, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Michael. Excited to talk about your on-site strategy. This is perfect, coming after exactly what he just talked about. So coming in, on-site strategy is really important, right? Just want to see if anybody, a lot of people with their on-site strategy don't think about their strategy as dividing from paid media to organic media, but I'm going to tell you now, it's really important. It's a super important audience. It's something really important to think about. And so kind of utilizing Just in different ways to do that. Coming into the holidays, it is important to be building your lists, right? Well, your list is so valuable, your email list, to build that channel out, because now we're going to be, you can use that list to maximize your return on that ad spending by spending less time and effort to acquire traffic during more competitive and expensive times. You can build your list now, and you'll avoid paying those seasonal premiums on ad campaigns. Plus, you have more time to build and nurture relationships. What does this look like? Currently, what we are suggesting, recommending to clients is getting lead captures, hyping up for the holidays, the Black Friday, the Cyber Monday live, right? A lot of people worry by hyping that up too early, they're going to miss out on sales now. A good way to kind of mitigate that is by also offering a discount for your lead capture at that time, right? But now is the time, right? It's really important getting people on those lists saying, hey, get exclusive access into our Black Friday, Cyber Monday by getting on our list, and also get a 10% discount today. Encourage people to shop then. And then you have that person on your list to start, marketing, sending that email to, getting them to see what's available for the holidays and reminding them of timelines to buy things for the holidays. Focus on lead capture for both organic and paid sources. So capturing subscribers from paid campaigns ensures that you just don't pay for an anonymous visitor and never see them again. You want to be collecting that information, right, from organic traffic. It's so important. And then as well, targeting specifically traffic coming in from paid media in a different manner, right? So if somebody is clicking through from a paid ad, you should be absolutely serving a lead capture at them to try to get them onto that list as well. But that lead capture should be mirrored to what that ad looked like to continue that experience on through to the website. A best practice, like we said, for all pop-ups targeting paid media traffic, is to mirror the copy and offer that was in the ad campaign. So this is the same thing if, let's say you have an offer for a specific item, something like that. If they are clicking through from that ad, mirror that experience on site to continue to get them to kind of stay in that flow, right? They're clicking through to the website, we're reminding them of the offer, and they're excited to use that offer. Lead capture ensures you put your best foot forward. If the first encounter doesn't result in a sale, which they often don't, organic traffic and other traffic coming in, the first time visitors may not always convert. An effective lead capture, this allows you to continue the conversation through email and nurture the campaigns and targeted ad spend as well to bring them back to your site for a personalized experience. So how does this targeted ad spend to bring them back work. Well, so that would be with what we'd like to our Just Uno Audience Sync is a really great feature for this. So Just Uno's Audience Sync helps prime audiences to buy when the time comes by building the relationship before the season kicks off, right? So this time of the year, we're starting to build these relationships, bringing into the heavy sales time in both Cyber Monday, Black Friday. You'll be sure that you can market to consumers at every stage of the journey from now and through the end of Q4. So 3 really good use cases for Audience Sync. Targeting promotions across ad platforms. So let's say you have a visitor who came through from organic search and you get them to sign up for emails. That's where we would hook our Audience Sync and send that email and send that over to both your Facebook and to your Google campaigns, right? And then let's say that they go and they leave before they make a purchase. You have that opportunity then to retarget new subscribers like this with ads encouraging them to use that coupon that they earned from giving their email before it expires. Second is to focus budget on or away from specific audiences. So allocating more budget to your highest intent audiences, or exclude those who engage with your organic campaigns to avoid spending budget unnecessarily, right? So you have people coming in from organic and you capture their email address. You can then target the specific audience, and if they have, their high interest audience, you can exclude people using what you've already learned about your audience and what you already know about your audience in this circumstance, right? We captured their email address because they wanted a discount, but then we find out, they didn't make a purchase. We can hide that's, they're pretty close. That's a high intent audience, and we want to push them down into that funnel and to make that kind of that click through worth it. So find new customers. And then our third for the Audience Sync is find new customers based upon the most profitable traits of your existing customers. So being able to build similar lookalike audiences in Google and Facebook right now is so valuable, especially with all the changes in iOS, right? First party data is so important. And that's what that's what, Audience Sync and that email capture is. You're capturing that first party that data from that email capture, and then you're able to use that to build those similar lookalike audiences in Google and Facebook ads. Use your Just Uno audiences as the source for these to ensure marketing spend is as optimized as possible for return on ad spend covering your retargeting and your new prospect needs.
Hey, Olivia, quick question from the audience here about Audience Sync.
Absolutely.
They want to know how often does the Audience Sync feature send those emails to Facebook or Google?
Awesome. Yeah. So it actually sends them hourly. So I know other different services who send and sync like this. Theirs is a 24-hour sync. I know that can be really difficult, especially during the holiday time period when you're trying to build new audiences and move things really quickly. We send every hour. So quick updates, very constant. So things are staying pretty updated.
Awesome. Thanks.
Awesome. And then continuing the conversation. So we don't want to just, collect our email and end our conversation there. We have something very valuable that we have knowledge about this person, and we have their email address. So we have a lot of ways to continue to engage with them, right? So you can target this paid media. You've paid a lot to have these people come onto your websites. This is optimizing and getting the most out of this audience when it comes to your website. So capturing their email address and remarketing to them and sending them emails, moving beyond that and targeting with paid media traffic with more enticing offers. I have clients that specifically target if somebody is clicking through from a Facebook or a Google campaign, their offer, their discount percentage is actually higher and more enticing for that click through, right? You've already paid for this traffic to come to your site. It's time to give them the best motivation to convert while they're there. Another way is using Just Uno's Commerce AI, using intelligent product recommendations to show products related to those shown in the ad campaign. So if you have an ad campaign that's showing shorts or something like that and somebody clicks through, you can show people on when they've clicked through the site, make sure that they're seeing similar items like that throughout the site, because that was what their interest clicked through to the site, right? This not only personalizes the on-site experience for the visitor, but it can also help you increase that average order value, right? More products in front of people. This is a really great opportunity as well, where you can be putting in your most popular items bought together and using that bundling language like that was spoken about earlier. So Commerce AI has an over 30% average engagement rate. So think about how powerful of an impact that could have for an on-site experience when it comes to optimizing for paid ad traffic. Another one is creating a cart abandonment promotion to rescue the most valuable and the most costly visitors to use, right? So that paid ad traffic, that's really, really, valuable traffic, and we don't want to lose it. So using advanced targeting rules in Justuno to try to target traffic sources like your paid media campaigns, plus a visitor's cart value. So somebody with a high cart value, like let's say your average, something that is above your usual average order value, we can trigger a promotion with a specific incentive or an offer at them, and test to most likely see what will convert them. Depending on your audience, this could be a discount, this could be something free shipping, free products, different things like that. The worst kind of abandoned cart to have is one you paid for. So this is a way to kind of continue that conversation on site and make the most out of that traffic. And so if you guys have any questions, send us an email. And we also have really, if you want more information on our audience sync, feel free to reach out as well. And then you can also get a free CRO audit on our site. It's really great. You can find out a little bit more about your CRO stuff on your site.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Olivia, for that. Yeah, a lot of that tied directly back to both Dan and Bobby's points, especially about personalization, that mirroring of paid ads and promotions, and then also using those AI recommendations to share products that that visitor is going to be interested in. It's going to go a long, long, long way in improving your holiday season. So thank you for those presentations. We have about 10 minutes to the hour, so I want to launch one last poll for everyone. And then additionally, if you have any questions, I want to give the audience a couple minutes to just let us know if you have any questions for any of the panelists up here, or also just any, if you'd like any insight on, holiday season in general, their predictions, anything at all, right? They're here, we're live. Happy to help. That we're here for you. So please, if you have anything at all, send it in the chat and we'll get that answered. So I'll give you guys a few minutes for that. And yeah, so yeah, Corey McDonald just said Audacity is the best analytics program to work with, super user friendly, and the support is great. So shout out Audacity, shout out Dan. Love to hear that. Yeah, love to hear it. Hey, and Bobby, quick question for you. I had one question that I thought of earlier is, what are the advantages of going with an agency versus doing some of this stuff in-house?
Yeah, so really good question, Michael. And so that's one of the questions I get a lot is, what's the big difference? And so one thing you have to understand is, especially working with a partner like Mute6, is we have a bit of a blueprint, right? A strategy, step-by-step processes to make sure that your business goes from wherever it is now into the scale that you're looking for. So that's one of the biggest things when you're working with individuals, even when you bring on people in-house, you have to essentially train them for how you want them to do things. And a lot of times you may not be sure how to do things. So you're kind of just trying to figure it out, or you're trying to be lean. But at the end of the day, when we talk about return on ad spend, it's how do we increase the amount of return we get out of each dollar? So we spend $1, you can get 2 from one partner, and from another partner, you may get 3 or you may get 4. So it's all about how do we really maximize each dollar. And so for Mute6, really, really strong at making sure that we take each process. And then on top of that is, you don't get one person when you work with Mute6, you end up with a team of people. You have copywriters, you have, creative designers, you have account managers that help, facilitate the process and the onboarding and, doing a ton of different things. So you almost get a village when you come to Mute6.
Awesome. I love that. I love that. Cool. Thank you, Bobby. Had another question come in from the chat. This is from Gemma, I believe. Sorry if I said that wrong, but she is saying, back to Bobby's point about looking at Shopify for properly measuring ROAS from Facebook, now that the iOS changes are in place, they want to know, do you have any tips on knowing what orders are coming through specifically from Facebook, cost per click, when looking at a Shopify dashboard?
Yeah, really good question. This is not a lot of people are leveraging this. One of the first thing comes to mind is the UTMs, right? Most people are using UTMs to some degree, and you're looking at Google Analytics. You can look at the Shopify. You can look at Google Analytics. You can look at Shopify. You can look at the UTMs through there. And so one of my favorite ways is to actually go through Shopify. And if you go to landing page by sessions, you can actually filter it out by UTMs. And so really you only want to see, UTM source or UTM name, and then you'll see sessions, you'll see conversion rate. So we'll actually show you the conversion rate of a particular campaign right there in Shopify. And I've actually found that to be more accurate than the ad account. The ad account may show you 5 conversions. You go and you look at, the UTMs within Shopify, and you see, okay, this campaign actually had 7 or had 10 conversions per se. So really, that's one of my favorite ways, is to leveraging what we call, it's actually a section called sessions by landing pages. And so you can actually select UTMs, go to UTM source or UTM name, and that's one of the best ways to actually find that. And so again, it's not going to be perfect, because again, we don't have a perfect solution. One thing I can say is that this is a worldwide issue, this whole tracking thing. It's kind of like we've been spoiled a little bit with our tracking accuracy. And so it's like, giving a lollipop to a baby and then taking it from them and saying, hey, like, you can't have this anymore. So it's frustrating, but nonetheless, we have to adapt to it.
Yeah, I gotta find a new lollipop or a different candy they like. I love that metaphor. That's awesome. Thank you, Bobby.
I'll just throw in 2 other suggestions too. So also, if you go into Google Analytics, you can look at multi-channel trends. You can look at your multi-channel funnel and sort of look to see if people through their entire visit, before they purchase, whether they ever interacted with Facebook. So it goes back to the UTM parameters that Bobby was mentioning, not just in Shopify, but leverage Google Analytics. And then if you have the ability to work with certain sort of partners, Facebook has a conversion API where you can feed data back into Facebook around people that have purchased. So they try and do some back-end linking between the people that purchased along with who they believe they delivered an ad to, and will kind of impact that vendor reported ROAS. So they're not going to necessarily tell you that specific order, but they'll kind of adjust their vendor reported ROAS. So if you're starting to spend significant amounts of money on Facebook, think about that conversion API in terms of helping improve the reporting.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. And actually, Dan, I have another question for you. This is from Jeremy from the audience, and he wants to know, how can we take last year's performance during the holidays and taking that to be more successful this year?
Yeah, so I always think of, your starting point for this year is always last year. So you want to think about, what are the days that are best? What are the offers that were best? What was the timing? And start really build that as your core plan. And then what do you want to test and learn? And you want to test and learn early so that you can make adjustments. So if you're thinking about, oh, I did a bundle last year that worked really well, like, do it again. But you might want to try some different bundles. And if you're seeing those outperform early on, then you want to make those adjustments. So it's really about having a plan in place around, what do you know your core business is doing that's working well? What do you want to go test? And then making sure that you're going to go measure that test and be quick to make a decision around, how do you make that test sort of your full scale strategy?
Gotcha. So sort of like a, if it ain't broke, don't fix it sort of thing. So keep what's working year after year, but then everything else, test, and find new opportunities to grow. I love that. Cool. And I have one last question from the chat, and that is, this is actually good. I would like to hear all of your answers. And it's, what day of Cyber 5 do you think will be the busiest overall? So Cyber 5 is Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Giving Tuesday. Oh shoot, now I can't remember the other two, but there's 2 other ones. And so I'd love to hear what what you guys think, which day will be busiest overall?
My biggest, I honestly would say Cyber Monday. That's typically been the real big online shopping day push, but like Black Friday has been with COVID in the last few years. I would say Black Friday has been just as intense. I would say just as busy sales wise lately. But it also depends on how the merchants themselves choose to lay their sales out. Um, what is becoming more and a more common practice is that people are doing a month long, like, don't worry about it, spend time with your family kind of sale, where that sale doesn't go away. It just is that whole kind of month time period. And in that you're going to see less of that spike, and you're going to see more of it just lay out throughout the entire month kind of thing. So it really does depend on the merchant and what their plans are, and like what their promotions are.
Awesome. Anyone else?
Dan, I thought you were going. You going for it, Dan? You want me to take it?
Sure.
Yeah.
So, I agree with Olivia. Monday's been obviously the one that's the big one for e-commerce companies as we focus. What's been interesting, I think, for me is to see how big the weekend has become over the last couple of years. So it used to be really that Friday and Monday, and we're seeing a lot more sales over Saturday and Sunday. And in general, weekends actually weekends used to be terrible in general for e-commerce, and now really seeing like weekends starting to be much better with the advent of people buying a lot more just on their phone. So pretty interesting from that perspective. And so I think we'll continue to see Monday be the best, but we'll start to see, Saturday and Sunday be really good as well. So don't forget those days and doing something unique on those days. Because we're all, I don't know, a lot of us lying around on the couch on Sunday watching TV, right? And doing some shopping too.
Yeah, great stuff. And so I agree with both Olivia and Dan here. I really do think that the weekend is going to be the strongest point. It typically is. Historically, the weekends are when people are, off of work. They really don't have many responsibilities on weekends. So you have a lot more ability to buy and take advantage of some of those offers. But really, it's essential to make sure that you have a strategy that is going to take you throughout each of those holidays, and making sure that you're implementing that strategy throughout different channels, and making sure that really they all really sync up. And so I think the biggest win, while we're talking about the Cyber 5, maybe not the biggest win, but one that's often slept on, is Q5, right? Something we don't talk about much. And that's really the period after Christmas and New Year's. And so those are periods where usually people are taking off, brands are taking off, people are going on holidays, and everybody checks out after Christmas. And so there's going to be a big opportunity there. CPMs are typically lower. You have an opportunity to tap into the individuals that got Christmas money or didn't get what they wanted to get. And so I think that there's really a big opportunity really within that window if you take advantage of it.
Cool. I've never heard that, Bobby. I'm going to steal that though. Q5. I like that a lot. That's awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much for your opinions. We are at the hour at 2 p.m. Central Time. So with that, it's a wrap. Thank you so much for everyone that attended live. Again, the recording of this will be sent out tomorrow. So I know we covered a lot of information here. So please watch it again, and do what you need to do to elevate your brand. So I'd like to give a huge shout out to the panelists here, Bobby, Dan, and Olivia, if you want to say bye to everyone. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for having us, Michael.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you so much.
Cool. Thanks, guys. See ya.
Later.